Hi guys! Welcome to my channel. My name is Aaron and I read fantasy. In this video, I'm ranking every book that I read this year. The categories we have are Can't Live Without It, Loved It, Liked It, Not For Me, Nope. Okay, so we started out this list with Light Lark. This is not in order, by the way. It's just the way that I put it in. Light Lark. Let's see, the first book. I liked it, but I liked it enough to move on to the second book. Second book was Nightbane. I loved it, but I feel like everyone can agree that the end of Nightbane, there was no resolution to this love triangle. And the ending of Light Lark, I'm not going to have any spoilers, but the ending of Light Lark made everyone read the second book. And in the second book, you see this love triangle and you think it's going to end there because of the end of the first book, and it doesn't. But I loved it, and I can't wait to pick up Sky Shade. Now we have the Book of Azrael. I'm in between liked it and loved it. I feel like this has a little bit of first book syndrome where you're developing the story and the plot line and the magic system, and I am definitely going to pick up book number 2. I loved it. Okay, finally entering the Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. I lie. I didn't like the beginning of the book, like part 1, 2, and the beginning part of 3, but part 4 and part 5 I loved. So, and I have already picked up Words of Radiance. So, does that mean I loved it? I liked it. Let's see. The first book in this series is Frost. I liked it. Frost is like a cozy fantasy, easy read in between something really strong. Like if you read The Way of Kings, if you need something to give you like some breathing room, then I would read something like Frost. I liked it. I don't love it. I'm not obsessed with it. Ambrosia was book number 2. Frost was pretty good. Ambrosia was kind of all over the place, but I still liked it. So, liked it. Quicksilver. This book is being turned into a Netflix movie, so a lot of people are obsessed with this one. And I was too. I loved it. 6 Scorched Roses. Carissa Broadbent this year for me, her short stories were better than her novels, which was, well, that's not true. The Serpent and the Wings of Night was really good. That was a 5-star book for me. Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, that was a 4-star for me. Songbird and the Heart of Stone, if I could give that. My generous rating at the time was a 2-star, and it's one of 2 books that I gave a 2-star for this year. In hindsight, I almost want to give that a 1 star and just say nope. But Six Scorched Roses, let's start there. I liked it a lot. So I loved it. Daughter of No Worlds, not for me. I read book 2 and I didn't find any reason for me to move on. Well, I read book 1 and there was no reason for me to move on to book 2. I started book 2 anyway, even thinking that, and I wasn't enjoying my read. I haven't made it past the first 10% of the book. So I think I'm just going to say not for me for that. Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, I liked that. Songbird in the Heart of Stone, nope. Like rewrite, burn, not burn, rewrite. Serpent in the Wings of Night, I loved it. That's the reason why I kept reading the series in the first place. Ashes in the Star-Cursed King, I liked it. It's kind of all over the place. Day One. This book impacted me in such a deep way. I discovered this book from One Day, the Netflix show, or series rather. And the series, I just cried and cried and cried, and I had to pick up the book. I'm not normally a romance reader in the conventional sense, but I had to pick up the book. And I read the book and I cried and I cried and I cried some more. I cannot live without this book. It is an easy recommendation for any romance reader. I feel like the story is timeless and it impacted me so much. It's the one of the best reads of this year for me. The Hot Mess Prince. This was another romance that was supposed to be like a cozy kind of, I need to pick up something that's light and not so heavy fantasy. It was kind of all over the place. Even though the book is less than 200 pages, it's still, but I had a good time with it. So I liked it. This liked it category is going to be very big, I think. Jade City. This is difficult. I feel like I signed up for a Jaguar and I got a Ford Focus with this book. If you like a story that's heavy on family relationships and heavy on mafia infrastructure and not heavy on fantasy, or it has a soft magic system, shall we say, then maybe Jade City is for you. It's very popular. I'm still up in the air as to whether or not I want to DNF the series. Maybe book 2 will be better for me, but I was expecting more. And I think that that's something that happens when you show up late to the party and everyone has already read the book and you have a certain expectation to receive something, and it just wasn't that for me. So Jade City is not for me. Storm and Shadows, Shadow and Storms. Carissa Broadman. This was the finale in the Legends of Thesmar series. I was disappointed by the finale. All of the high stakes things that were brought up in books 1, 2, and 3 And this last book just seemed to resolve too quickly, I think. There were no stakes, nothing to hold on to until the end of the book. So it kind of felt like once you got to the 50% mark and you saw that everything was resolved almost from the last book, it gave me the feeling of why am I still reading this? Also, so much smut. It's like I love a good smutty book, but if the smut is replacing the plot line or the smut is filling out the plot line, then I'm wondering what I'm reading, and I'm gonna say nope. For Shadow and Storms, slaying the Shadow Prince. Um, I liked it. Easy read, novella, cozy feeling, cozy for me anyway. Um, I liked it. Fate and Furies. Let's see. I liked it as well. Vows and Ruins. I liked it. Blood and Steel. I liked it. Okay, next we have The Cruel Prince. This is a super popular book talk book. Uh, I'm gonna say it's not for me. It's YA, and it's a romance that has no romance in the first book. Uh, I just don't feel the need or I don't feel the excitement to pick up book two. I kind of feel like the same way I did about Jade City, actually. And that's not saying, I did say I'm not sure if I'll DNF Jade City, and I'm not sure 100% that I'll DNF The Cruel Prince. I'm like 95% sure it's a DNF, but um, now we get into one of my favorite authors this year, which is clear by how many books I read, Jay Bree. The Broken Bonds series. Book number one. Book number one, I liked it. It was a little bit difficult to see um, this reverse harem with so many of the male characters just being so vicious to our female main character. That was a little bit hard to digest. And for that reason, I liked it and I didn't love it. Every other book in the series, I loved. I loved. These are easy. This is easy for me. Okay. Um, The Crown of Oaths and Curses. I'm gonna say, can I live without it? Yeah, I can't live without it. I loved that book. Um, our female main character is such a badass, and her level of patience throughout the entire book is astounding. And then the end, crazy. Uh, let's see, The Sword. Okay, The Sword. It's a prequel novella telling our male main character's point of view. I liked it. I wasn't obsessed with it. Um, the Scepter. This is our female main character's priest story and her point of view. I also liked it, but I was more excited about her story than his, so I'm gonna say I loved it. Oh, the book that actually released this year, The Throne of Honor and Blood. This caused a lot of controversy, um, because of the grammatical errors and the ending of the book, but I actually loved it. Okay, and now we have the author who easily I would say is my favorite author of the year, and that is Jay Kristoff with Empire of the Vampire. My goodness, this book, I cannot live without it. Either one, but Empire of the Vampire. Just the crassness of the characters and the ridiculousness of the violence, and I love this so much. It really exposed me to this category of reading, and I realized like grimdark is definitely something that I love and need to experience more of. So both of the books, Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned, I cannot live without these books. Okay. I think this is my most read author of the year, or at least second most read, Jennifer L. Armentrout. So we have the prequel series, Flesh and Fire, that series, and we have From Blood and Ash. Let's see. The first book here is the prequel, The Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I loved it. A Fire in the Flesh. I also love that. Light and Flame. I love that as well. This is a new series from Jennifer L. Armentrout. Fall of Ruin and Wrath. I like that. This series came out in 2023, but it was new to me this year. Okay, now in the From Blood and Ash, The War of Two Queens. I liked that. From Blood and Ash, I love that. That's the reason why I kept reading Jennifer L. Armentrout this month. She really grabbed me with the first book. A Soul of Ash and Blood. A Crown of Gilded Bones. I really enjoyed that. So I loved it. Primal of Blood and Bone. That's not supposed to be there. Born of Blood and Ash. I think this was the last book in the From Blood and Ash series, and the last book was a nope for me. In the last book, we get our male main character's point of view, which for me, the first book, you release the first book, and then 8 books later, you want to talk about the male main character's point of view. Is that even 8 books? Let's count that. 3, 5, 2, 6, 4, 1, 7, 8 books later, I don't care. I felt like that was a money grab. And it didn't move the plot forward at all. A Shadow in the Ember. This was the finale, I believe, of the prequel series, and I loved it. Every bit of the prequel series, I loved. I preferred it actually to the present day series or the current series From Blood and Ash. I much preferred the prequel series. A Touch of Golden Madness. This was another huge success this year. And unfortunately for me, I read it after I read Quicksilver, so there were a lot of comparisons between the two books. And maybe because of that, I liked it, but I didn't love it. Finally, I read Powerless and Reckless this year, and I loved. Well, I liked Powerless. I loved Powerless, actually. No, I loved Powerless. And I loved Reckless. I'm a part of that camp that loved Reckless. M.A. Wardell wrote some amazing romances this year. Unfortunately, the first one that I see, I did not love that one. That one was not for me. But his writing in general and the way that he talks about the complexities of relationships and sometimes it can be awkward finding your person. Um, but this particular one, Miss Shagogs and Mistletoes, that wasn't for me because um, I only liked one of our male main characters. The other one, he was not great. And even by the end of the book, he still wasn't great. Um, this book, however, Napkins and Other Distractions, I loved this. And it was very informative too. Having a book talk about what it is like to be a side and what that means and how do you navigate dating that way. It was so interesting to me. Also, it's a bisexual coming out story, so it's really, really well done. Really well done. And the book that I just totally fell in love with, Teacher of the Year, I cannot live without this book. I love it. Because of this book, I will read anything that M.A. Wardell writes. Um, cannot live without that. Lady of Starlight. Okay, now we're in Melissa K. Rourke territory, and I loved her writing this year. Um, the Lady of Darkness series, all of these, I loved all of them. Uh, Actually, you know what? Lady of Darkness, the first book, I'm gonna just say I liked it because I moved on for the rest of the series. But I think at the time when I read it, I gave it 2 stars. Um, let's see. Tempest of Wrath and Vengeance. This is the newest release from Melissa K. Rourke, and I loved it. Finally seeing our female main character have agency and take control of her situation, regardless if it was something good or bad. Um, I still loved seeing her take control. So I love that. Lady of Shadows. I love Lady of Shadows. Reign of Shadow and Endings, the first book in the Legacy series. I liked it, but I struggled with it because I was so triggered. Um, Storm of Secrets and Sorrows. I really struggled with this book. Um, but I still liked it because we got to see our female main character from the Lady of Darkness series, which was just exactly what that book needed. And because of that, I'm gonna say I loved it. Lady of Ashes, I loved it. Lady of Embers, I loved it. The Foxhole Court. Oh, this is also another one that just was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a romance, and there is no romance that happens in the first book, and there's all these twists and turns, and I don't know if I was expecting to read this or if I signed up to read that. Maybe I would have enjoyed that, but I was looking for a romance. Um, but I am continuing on in the series. It wasn't what I signed up for, but the story was still interesting, so I liked it. Spark, glow, and heat of the Everflame. This series has some of the best written queer characters. The side characters in this. Spark of the Everflame, I loved it. And the ending, great, fabulous. Glow of the Everflame, I think this is most people's favorite book in the series. Um, and I love Glow because of a particular uh, character that we meet who is a person of color. And I love this character. Anytime this character is speaking, the dialogue, the sass, I am absolutely here for it. I love it. Um, Heat of the Everflame. Controversial, but I can't live without this either. This entire series, I live and breathe this entire series, and I'm really hopeful that Penn Cole is going to release book number 4, the fourth and final book in the series this year. Um, Now we're gonna switch to a genre that you don't really see at all, which is sci-fi. And Pierce Brown, the writing of Red Rising, the first book, is so epic. Um, the way the book ends, I'm like, whoa, okay. I knew that in the first couple of chapters in the book, you're getting a feel, but even in those like developmental pages, which are always the hardest things for me to read, I was interested. I was totally interested. I didn't understand what I was reading at first, and because it's sci-fi, I already had this kind of dialogue in my mind, like, what am I reading? What am I reading? What am I reading? Um, the violence in this book is just um I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Golden Sun, uh I cannot live without this either. Pierce Brown has not made any mistakes in writing the original trilogy so far that I've read. I have started book number 3 in the original trilogy, and I'm greatly enjoying it. The ending of Golden Sun, I felt hopeless. It's just like reading Kingdom of Ash, which is what we'll get to that eventually. But reading the ending of the book that comes before Kingdom of Ash, and then getting into Kingdom of Ash, that feeling of hopelessness, like this cannot get any better. There is no way out of this. The complete devastation, even though you know it's the main character, and if there's another book, so um, that's a really special thing for Arthur to do, to make you feel like there is no way out for the main character, and the main character really could die. Um, all right. The two Rachel Gillick books, One Dark Window. Uh, to me, this was perfect to read for spooky season. Something gothic, atmospheric, and also cozy for me. I'm trying to think, like, why is this cozy for me? I guess easy read. An easy read for me means cozy. So, um, I liked it. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I liked it enough to continue on reading. And Two Twisted Crowns, I liked it. Um, and I enjoy. how easy it is to read Rachel Gillick's writing, so I want to pick up more from her. Metal Slinger. This was another book that was super duper hyped this year, and reading through the entire book, I did not see the hype, and then the ending hit me like I walked in traffic. um, but I still didn't love it. It was just like, I read all of this and I'm enjoying the story, but then I get to the end and it's like, whoa, I liked it. I started off my year actually reading the Percy Jackson books, and I loved them, all three of them that I've read so far. I will continue to read this. I've only read the first three books. Okay. Now we are in Robert Jordan territory, who has secured himself as being one of my favorite authors of all time. I'm currently reading book number 9 in the Wheel of Time series, and I love all of these. I hear though that after book 9 or 10, it gets a little wonky. I haven't seen that yet so far. Um, but I am loving the books that I have read. And all of them are going to go in the love it category. I wonder if it'll say that I can't add any more books in this category. Oh, okay, great. Awesome. Okay, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I wanted to love this so bad. I really did. But I didn't love it. I didn't love it. I was really confused by the end of what I read. So, but I think I will pick up the second book. It's supposed to, or at least I'm hoping that it does come out next year. And then I'll really have a final say. But for now, I liked it. Sarah J. Maas. This author's my most read author, I think, period. Um, the Crescent City series, I don't know, maybe I'm alone on this island here, but I think the Crescent City series is her worst writing. Um, when you compare it to the Akatar series as well as Throne of Glass, there's like really no comparison. It's almost a different author, and not in a good way. Um, did I still enjoy Crescent City? Yes, I did. But I DNF'd the first book 4 times before I was able to read through it. Um, and I'm fully convinced that Sarah J. Maas, her first book is always not great. Um, even in Akatar, I absolutely loved the series, but book 1 was a slog fest for me. Um, the ending was great, but book 1, I would reread the series and skip book 1. um, but Crescent City, book number 1, I liked it. Crescent City, book number 2, I liked it. Crescent City, book number 3, I liked it. Throne of Glass, however, the first book, I actually didn't read the first book first. What I read first was The Assassin's Blade, which is the uh, book that has a series of 4 novellas. And the 4 novellas were not the most interesting thing to get to, except for the one in the desert. That was pretty interesting. That was pretty good. That I liked. Throne of Glass, the first book in the series, I loved. And the rest of the books, I loved. I loved the rest of the books. I was almost obsessed a bit with Kingdom of Ash, but the beginning part, her being the thing that happens to her in the beginning part, rather, it's really difficult to read. So I loved it, and I'm not obsessed with it. One of the first books I read, this is another book from January, was a German book, auf der Geschäftsreise, trying to just get my German better. It's a short novella. I liked it. It was something to read. I finally read Legendborn and Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn, and I am loving both of those. Okay, Vicious by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab is a very popular author, and a lot of people love their work. This book was not for me, and I am not sure I want to read anything else from V.E. Schwab. That is my tier ranking list. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.